Hi, welcome to another edition of Ask Jeff, where you can ask anything you want. We run the full range of questions here. We're a full-service answering, giving service, sort of. But we tend to answer you back in a variety of ways. This particular question was asked, and it was answered in writing with a request that we could answer it in this environment without revealing to you the originator of the question. How about that? And so this is the question. It's this simple. Is it wrong for a Christian family to use hospice? Now, obviously, that you know that when that question comes, there is a world of stuff going on behind that question, and it was. And so the answer was a very lengthy answer, as you can see. A whole lot of thought trying to help navigate a specific situation. I want to speak to it in generalities, because if you hear that question and it causes you to pause for a moment, you know exactly what hospice is. And maybe you've had to deal with it. Maybe you've had to make that call. Hospice is a program that's designed to offer comfort and support to people in the final phases of terminal illnesses. Hospice care by design focuses on pain management and quality of life rather than seeking a cure and wholeness, okay? And so hospice takes place in maybe a residential home. It can take place in an individual's home. But hospice is that end-of-life care that happens, and it's when you call in an organization, a group, to help you navigate it. It is helpful and can be helpful to the person who is getting ready to move into eternity at a different level. It can be helpful for the family. It is something that many insurance companies will cover, and you have to kind of navigate that with your insurance carrier. Certainly, it's available through your Medicare, Medicaids, and some of those retirement type of insurance policies are out there. And so again, and that's a call for whoever your care provider would be if you're ever facing that decision. So again, this question came with a lot of emotion loaded behind it, and a family that was kind of butting heads over what needs to happen. The headbutting, and again, I have permission to share this with you, it came from the fact that there was a family member who made the statement in a family meeting setting that basically they could not call in hospice because by calling in hospice, they were no longer willing to look for or wait for or no longer seek God's cure for this illness that their parent had. And by giving the responsibility to a doctor or a healthcare giver, the hospice organization, they were basically making a declaration that what they wanted, their will to help them ease out of this life into eternity, was more important than God's ability to take them in His timing. And they were butting heads over the timing issue. And that is a hard place to be. And I want you to know, as a pastor, I've dealt with families on this before. I have been in the room when fights have taken place. I have been in the room where debates have taken place. I've been in the room where decisions were made that I would never make for my own family. But by the same token, you know, I respect and value those emotions that are in the room. And so, again, this is a huge kind of conversation that comes in an Ask Jeff thing. So ultimately, what I'm telling you is this is kind of a depressing Ask Jeff. And if you don't need to hear this right now, this is a great time to cut it off. But if you want to keep going, the short term to the answer, the short form of the answer is no, it's not wrong. It's not wrong, because I think for a family to carry the responsibility of caring for one who is sick and ill, I think it is one of the most difficult things and most difficult roads that you can travel. And some of you who are watching this have traveled that road. And I think we all have it in our heads and hearts that if God would just take us like that and make it nice and clean and no one has to worry about it, that would be good. And I think maybe there's a part of us that all of us would like to go like that. But at the end of the day, the Bible teaches us that all of our days are scripted for us before we were ever born. And I always tend to think that if God allows someone who seems to be in bad shape to tarry and linger, that God is using that to accomplish something, even though we may not be able to see it, but there's a reason, and God, especially for one of his own, is doing that for a reason. And very often it is for the family or for someone who needs to discover and learn some lessons in the process. But I don't think that it's wrong to involve or use the resources that are available to you to do things that will ease and manage pain, that can make life easier and can make this transition from one life into the next easier, especially if there is no possibility of cure short of a miraculous intervention at the 11th hour by God, which of course can happen. God can do that. But here's what I also want you to know, that if that is the plan and you were to choose hospice for your loved one when they weren't able to, and God really did plan an 11th hour Hail Mary resurrection, if you will, and you did your best to mess that up by choosing hospice, God is big enough to do it at 10 o'clock instead of 11 o'clock. God is big enough to make sure that you and I don't have the power to derail his plan or his path for someone else in their life. And you have to remember that. And so the answer to the question is no, it's not wrong. My suggestion is do your time and really research the hospice organization that you're going to deal with. Some hospice organizations really do have a Christian ministry slant, and they are much easier to work with and much better to work with, especially for families of faith. And when you work with them, you'll discover that there's an element of prayer. The spiritual element is a part of everything that you do, and there really is an understanding and good communication that takes place. A hospice organization that does not do that, that seems to be working against you or working their own agenda, that's always problematic. And so it's very easy to do. Ask friends, ask other family members, ask people in your church, ask people who have dealt with others as they kind of navigate hospice. People have strong feelings about hospice, and there's reasons for that. There are stories galore about that, and it's completely understandable. Your personal choice and how you want to deal with it is yours and yours alone. Trust me when I tell you you're not going to be right or you're not going to be wrong. It's your choice. But the answer specifically to the question, is it wrong or is it a sin for a Christian to choose to use hospice? And the answer to that is no, not at all. And I think that God honors that, and he gives us the opportunity to make choices, use our spiritual sense, our intellectual sense, and our relational sense to get it right. And so that's the answer that I help a family navigate through, that they said I could share with you at a smaller level. And so if that helps, then that's great. And if it doesn't help and you're still watching, then I appreciate you sticking with us. We'll try to make sure that the next edition of Ask Jeff is a little bit more upbeat. How about that? Until next time, thanks.